Welcome to Construction Genius. Today we're tackling a challenge many of you face, writing. Our guest is Pam Hurley, the founder of Hurley Write Incorporated, with over 35 years of experience helping teams write and review more effectively. She's going to break down what technical writing is and why it's crucial for contractors. You'll learn how to structure documents, craft impactful headings, and improve readability. We'll also dive into the do's and don'ts of PowerPoint presentations. No more death by PowerPoint. Plus, we'll explore how to create effective SOPs using process mapping. Whether you're struggling with bids and contracts or just want to up your writing game, Pam's insights will help to transform your technical documents. This is a punchy, practical episode packed with tips you can use right away. Let's dive right in. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Pam, welcome to Construction Genius.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you on because you are an expert in an area that many people struggle with, and I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell us your expertise.
Sure. My name is Pam Hurley. I am the owner and founder of Hurley Write Incorporated, a certified women-owned small business. I have a PhD in technical writing from the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecock. I have a lot of academic experience and started the business about 35 years ago. So we work with some of the largest companies in the world on their helping their teams write and review more effectively. It's not just writing, it's reviewing too. But
Excellent. Give us a simple definition of technical writing.
yeah, so technical writing is just about application. So when you think about business, right, people like to separate it's business writing, is scientific writing, it's writing, that kind of thing. But really, in most cases, it's just the application. So technical writing is just writing technical reports, specs, user manuals, those kinds of things. So the umbrella can be fairly large, but it really is just about how do I convey technical information, typically to a technical audience, but it can also be to a non-technical audience, non-technical readers as well.
Okay, so that's something that contractors are doing all day is reading technical information, and obviously they're technical experts. You have a perspective that one of the things that a company struggles with is a strategy around
Yes.
the writing that they do, the technical writing. Can you explain what you mean by a strategy when it comes to technical writing?
Right, absolutely. So typically when people think about writing, they think, well, we've got to write this report and we have to, give it to these people, the findings or whatever, proposal, whatever it is. And the strategy really centers around what is it that you want the document to do, A, and then B, what is it you want your readers to do? What action do you want your readers to take? And while lots of times writers, companies have a vague idea of that, what we like to get people to do is reverse engineer that. In other words, I can't know how to solve the problem if I don't know what action I want you to take. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about strategy. Having spent years in academia, I also understand that the way that they teach writing in academia is terrible. It doesn't work for most people. So consequently, they get out of college and I don't know how to write, and they produce documents that are ineffective. And so one of the things we talk about in our workshops is here are different strategies. Here are different ways to solve the writing problem, because writing is a problem. How do you solve the writing problem? How do I convey a particular piece of information to a particular reader for a desired outcome? So you have to know that desired outcome. And that's what we talk about when we talk about strategy. What works for you? Is it what you learned in academia? Probably not. Or are there other ways that you can solve that writing problem? And that's what's missing because the way that writing's taught in academia, it treats everybody as though they think the same, and they don't.
Okay. So if I'm a general contractor and I have a subcontract that I want my specialty contractors to to understand, to adhere to, and to then take action on in an appropriate way. Tell me a little bit more about how I begin to structure that document in such a way so that my intended result is achieved.
Well, first of all, you have to know who you're writing for. And I know we all hear this, know your audience, know your audience. But what happens is that people don't take that deep dive into knowing who they're actually writing for. So there's three types of readers: primary, secondary, tertiary. And so one of the things that we need to do is really understand who that primary reader is. And right, so I can say, oh, my primary reader is Eric. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. That doesn't give me any information that would help me write the document. What do I know about you? What do I know about how busy you are? What do I know about how you read? One of the things we know based on readability studies, which is what we teach in our workshops, is that people, I'm telling you something, not telling you anything you don't know, they don't read. People do not read. I'll give you, for instance, we worked with a contractor. This was a construction contractor a couple of years ago. And they were, we were helping them with their bids. And, you look at the material, look at the business, just mind blowing, just all this junk, all this stuff. And so what we helped them understand was, how do you emphasize information correctly for those particular people who are very busy and trying to multitask and do all those kinds of things. And there are particular ways, based on what research says about readability, that you can structure documents to get the outcome that you want. So, but what we tend to do is do things exactly the same way all the time, and then wonder why it doesn't work. Or in any industry, oh, this is the way that such and such company does it, so that's the way we need to do it, without really assessing, is it working? If it's not working, there are other ways to go about it. But that typically it's just like, I don't know what to do, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about the structure of documents, what works, what doesn't work, and how I begin to go about that process of structuring my documents correctly?
Sure, absolutely. You have to know what's important to the reader. So too often writers write for themselves, or they write for the person with the same knowledge base. I'm working with a big company right now. We're looking at their document, all this stuff, all this, you read, and it's just all this stuff, and it's just like, what does the reader care about? They don't care about, we did this and we did that and we did the other and the result is X. They probably care about what the result is. People care about the impact on them. They don't care two iotas about what you did and all the stuff you did and all this stuff. They care about how it impacts them and how it affects them. And so when we think about information, and that's why I was talking earlier about your reader. You have to know what your reader thinks is important. So, for instance, we work with a lot of companies, and they got, da, 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 and then the recommendations are last.
Right.
Well, in lots of cases, those recommendations should be first. They want you to tell them what to do, and maybe they want to know about the what. Now, I'm not saying in all cases.
Sure.
So, my point is that if you approach writing as problem solving, this is a problem I have to solve, then you're better able to think strategically about how to solve that problem, instead of doing the same old stuff all the time with the same outcome. Right. But people tend to do the same thing when it comes to writing over and over again, same outcome, and they don't analyze why.
What is the role of critical thinking in coming to the conclusions, both in terms of what the outcome is that you're looking for and the way that you're structuring the documents?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So if you think about writing as problem solving, when you face any problem in a day, let's just say, right, we work with a lot of, smart people that use their critical thinking skills every day. You probably are going to come up with multiple ways to solve any given problem, right? So my tire's flat. Okay, well, I can do X, or I can do Y, or I can change it myself. I can call a tow truck. I can call somebody to pick me up. I've got all these choices, depending on the time it's going to take. So I'm going into all this stuff to make the right decision. And writing is exactly the same way. What's the writing problem you're trying to solve? I want to win this bid. Okay, what do I know about the people for whom I'm writing it? Okay, well, they're busy. They're going to get thousands of bids. How do I stand out? So those are the kinds of things we're talking about when we think about critical thinking. How do you solve the writing problem to get the reader to do what it is that you want them to do? So critical thinking, we use it all the time, every day. But when it comes to writing, we tend to think of writing as something that's secondary to the critical thinking that we do every day. We hear that, oh, it's not important. It's secondary to my job. It's the most important thing you do, the writing, right? It is the most important thing for most companies that they do, because if you can't win the proposal, you can't win the bid, you can't do this, people can't follow your instructions, then it's all for naught. Nobody cares, right? Things aren't going to get done. You're not going to win business, and you're going to die on the vine.
It's interesting. I was interacting with a teacher recently, and they were talking about how they're going to reintroduce oral examinations.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a brilliant idea, particularly.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
And the reason I bring that up is because, so many college students these days are becoming even worse writers because they're not writing at all. They're just chat GPTing.
Exactly.
Do you find there's a realistic application for AI with this in your field at the moment, or is it something that just produces generic stuff that's not any use?
I'm going to say that there are uses for it as prompt, things like that. I'm going to I was talking to a copywriter yesterday. He trained chat GTP to sound like him, his voice, that kind of thing. He started using it to post to social media. Likes went down, interactions went down, engagements went down. He had a percentage. He said it's just gone into the toilet when he started using, because he said that people can sense the insincerity of it. The other thing about it, and we talked a lot about this because that's the question we get all the time. Are you worried about AI? I'm not really, but here's the thing. If I own a company, I don't want. First of all, you've got to train the damn thing, but secondarily, somebody still has to review the work, right? The writing. So I would rather have you have some experience and not be a great writer and me have to review that, then have to review something that's some generic thing. The other thing is that writing is a way to concretize knowledge. And what I mean by that is, and research bears this out, when you take notes in a class, research just shows that is a better way to retain information than simply sitting there passively learning it or watching PowerPoints or whatever the case may be. We have all, I think, probably experienced this idea where writing helps us understand what we know and don't. So it's an incredibly important activity that we're involved in. I mean, I've experienced it just, and you start writing, like, well, I don't know about that, So I remember when I used to teach in academia, students were like, well, I don't know what to write about. But I'm like, why have you started writing anything? No. Okay, well, you need to start writing first, because that way you understand what you know and don't. But to just think about it abstractly is not going to get you closer to the goal of having that paper written or whatever the case may be. So writing is a great way to, to hone those critical thinking skills, right? And to understand what you know and don't about your field, about whatever it is that you're trying to do, right? So we're big believers in the fact that organizations really need to lean in to writing and give their folks the time and the space to write, because they pay a lot of lip service to it. Oh, it's really important, but then the writer, everybody's time crunched and all this other kind of stuff. But it's an incredibly important organizations that embrace writing and embrace writers are much more successful than organizations that don't, that just kind of treat it like, well, it's just secondary to your job.
Hey, this is Eric. Quick break to remind you about my book, Construction Genius. Practical, effective, hands-on, simple, no BS. Leadership, strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies. Go to Amazon, buy yourself a copy, buy a copy for your leadership team. You will not regret it. It's totally awesome. All right, let's get back to our interview. So starting with the end in mind and thinking about what is it that I want someone to do as a result of what they've read, and then also thinking about the audience, the person that I'm writing to, describe a process. Let's say I can say my technical documents are junk,
Yep.
right? And people are always coming back with the same questions on my contracts or, on my bids or something like that. Describe for us a process where we can begin to go through step by step, improving the quality of our writing and therefore the quality of our outcomes.
Right. And that's a great question. First of all, you need to be able to assess the feedback that you're getting, right?
Mm.
So if I'm getting the same questions over and over and over again, okay, well, why? What do the questions look like and why am I getting the same questions over and over again?
Yeah.
We tell writers this all the time when feedback, if you're getting feedback, you need to keep a spreadsheet of the feedback. It's a really simple thing. And then go back and assess that. Okay, this is like whatever it is. But again, you have to, writing is problem solving on paper. So the first thing you have to do is to figure out what is the problem I'm trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get this person to hire us to do X. All right, A, good. All right, what do I know about this person? Okay, I know they're busy. I know they're a jerk. I know that they don't like to read. I know that they skim. I know 5 things about them. And this is one of the things we talk about in a workshop. What are 5 things you know about them? Okay, let's say for the sake of argument, I know you're busy. Then it becomes, okay, if I know you're busy, then what are some strategies that I can use to get a busy person to read?
Mm.
All right. Well, maybe I create more headings and subheadings, which, by the way, I'm a big fan of headings and subheadings. Maybe I write paragraphs for skimmers, right? We know that most readers are skimmers. What are some things that I can do? Do I have big walls of text? Can I break those up? Is it organized appropriately for that particular for that particular reader? Those are the things. And then what happens is then we test the solutions. So if I've been doing the same thing the same way for 20 years and I'm not getting, and my results aren't improving, I've got to figure something out. I'm going to try something different. Now I'm going to put, for the next report, I'm going to put the recommendations first or whatever. Does that increase the buy rate or whatever it is? No. Okay, well, let's try something else. But you have to be willing to test the waters, if you will, especially if what you're doing and have been doing for however many years is not working. You've got to try different things. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about wholesale changes, but you need to be willing to make some changes. Maybe shorter paragraphs, maybe tag, maybe headings and subheadings. Maybe we reorganize. There's all kinds of ways to do that. And then we find what works, but you've got to be able to assess and you've got to be able to track that stuff. Right. So if I have a 50% more success rate with putting the recommendations first, okay, great. That's good information. Let's mark it down somewhere and try that again. Kind of like A/B testing. If you have a website, we do A/B testing and on emails and junk like that. So, but people don't do that. They don't take the time to analyze if the documents are actually working. They just bitch and moan about them, right? I mean, honestly, that's what they do. It's just all this, but nobody ever stops and says, well, why is it not working?
I'd like to ask you about headings and subheadings because what recommendations do you have about the way that I craft those to make them as effective as possible?
So headings are broad, right? So headings are like background would be a heading. Subheadings are where the spicy parts. Subheadings are the opportunity for you to tell your reader, direct the reader to the information and tell them why it matters.
In the subheading itself?
In the subheading itself, absolutely.
So what it is and why it matters.
Exactly right.
How
would you benefit from a new and improved pen?
Yeah.
The subheading.
Yeah. So should my subheadings cohere together logically as you run through the document?
Yeah, you should be able to look at the subheadings and have a really good understanding of the major points within the document itself. Yes, and they have to work with the heading as well. I'm a huge fan of subheadings because we know based on readability studies, people are not reading. They're just not.
Right.
And so if I can help my reader find information quickly and easily, that benefits me in all kinds of ways. But if I'm, going through and having to, try to find information, forget it. I've
Yeah.
got 50 other bids. I'm going to find it's just like with resumes. People think that HR people are looking for the best candidate. They're not looking for the best candidate. They've got 200 resumes. What do you think they're going to do? They're looking for the resume that is the easiest to read and easiest to get through and is clear. And if that doesn't work, then they'll go. But they're looking to get rid of 190 of these bad boys.
It's interesting because when we're talking about subheadings, when you're talking about crafting a subheading, you're talking about a skill that, for instance, copywriters wrestle with for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know the people listening to this podcast right now are not copywriters.
Yeah, they don't have to be.
And so what are some simple ways that I can craft a subheading? So I'll give you an example. One tip that I've often gotten is, hey, take your subheading from the first sentence of the paragraph, because
Right.
that's going to be a good source of information and direction. What advice do you have in light of crafting a subheading?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically that should work if the first sentence is crafted well.
Yes.
And the first sentence is the most important sentence of the paragraph.
Okay.
Right. It's supposed to tell readers this is what we're talking about. This is why it matters, that kind of thing. So you can do that. The other thing that we suggest is looking for keywords. What are keywords? What are the words in the paragraph that provide the gist of the message?
Mm.
Think about benefit, that whole, what we call WIFM. What's in it for me?
Yes.
Why would your reader care about the information in this section?
Mm-hmm.
What is the benefit to them? And so if you think about it that way, those are ways to craft compelling subheadings. You can also think about it as an outline though, right? So if I've got background as my heading, then what are the main points throughout, right? And then think about it that way, and you can craft subheadings that way as well.
How do I balance what's in it for them with what's in it for me?
If you make it so that it's about them, it's going to be all about you. Because what's going to happen is I'll give you a proposal for an instance.
Sure, please. Yeah.
So proposals, companies love to, we're the best and we've been in business for 85,000 years and we do this and we do that and we do other. Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can go to you and say, hey, I know that your pain point is X and I'm going to focus on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So by my doing that, you're automatically going to understand, right, what's in it for you. And then that benefits me because there's that understanding. So it's not about me telling you how great I am. It's about me showing you. Yeah. An analysis is the same thing, right? We have a lot of people who write analyses. Okay. An analysis is not just a bunch of facts. You have to support everything in an analysis. I can't say, oh, this website is crap, right? I have to show you or prove to you that it's crap, right? The same thing when we talk about that balance. If I can prove to you, right, that we're the best company to do the job or whatever the case may be, I'm going to benefit. And then that's all I care about. I just want you, have you ever heard of ethos?
No, tell me that.
Aristotle's ethos. Aristotle said there's three ways to persuade: ethos, logos, pathos. So
Right.
ethos is the image that you project, right? I know we call them different things, but it's the image that you project. So anytime, like for instance, the CrowdStrike thing that just happened.
Sure.
You heard about this, obviously.
Yeah.
And then what did they do? They sent people a $10 gift certificate, right? That for some people didn't work at all.
Yeah, right.
So when you think about the image, this was a major, you-know-what show. I mean, major.
Yeah.
And they're sending people $10 gift cards.
Yeah.
So when you think about the ethos of the company, it's like that doesn't really add up with all the agony and the pain that the people who were affected by it, right? So that's what we're talking about when we talk about ethos. That I can present myself or my company in such a way that you understand my professionalism and all that because I'm solving your pain points.
Yes.
But I don't have to tell you all the great things we've done or all the projects we've worked on or that kind of thing. I'm not saying that those things should be included, but it really is about how do I solve your problem? Because that's at the end of the day, that's all people care about.
Many of the people that I work with, they do a combination of let's say they're presenting a bid. So they have a
Mhm.
bid that they want to present, and I think you're saying it very well. You need to do it in light of what's in it for them and make it as easy as possible to read. But one of the areas they really struggle with is PowerPoint presentations.
Oh,
I know, exactly. So, death by PowerPoint is a familiar thing. In some businesses, they ban PowerPoint because people are so crap at using it.
ugh,
But let's
yes.
assume I need to use it for my presentations and I want to get better at it. What are 3 things I can do to get better at PowerPoint presentations?
So are we talking about PowerPoint as a report or PowerPoint as an actual presentation?
You take it any way you want to go there.
Okay. PowerPoint should not be used as presentations. That's a hill I'm going to die on. These companies that use PowerPoints as presentation, why? Why? Because it just becomes a load of crap. It's all this stuff. So there's a lot of science behind PowerPoints, right? So if you're using them as a presentation, you want the focus to be on you as the speaker. People cannot read and listen at the same time. Research has shown this. They cannot. So if you want people to listen to you, then your PowerPoints need to be sparse. And also it's called PowerPoint, not Power Prose. It's not Power Paragraph. They didn't call it that. They called it PowerPoint.
Yes.
Research shows there shouldn't be more than 6 items on any given slide. And if you're going to use graphics, make sure that they augment the text. Don't just throw some crappy graphic up there because you can,
Yeah.
or some weird design where you're like overwhelmed by colors. Research also says that your background should be black, not white.
Interesting. What do you mean by the background there?
The background of the slide, like people do it in white.
Yeah.
It should be black with white text.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So you have your image and a black background and white text.
correct.
Now I know that because like on my apps, I prefer the black text, the
Right.
blackout to the interesting. Why do you think that is that people are more comfortable with black than with white?
Well, I think the research that I've read said it's just easier on the eyes and it's easier to read.
Interesting. Yep, I like that. Now another area that you specialize in, which I think a lot of people struggle with, is SOP writing,
Oh,
standard
yes.
operating procedures. And
Yes.
and so this is one of the challenges when you think about thinking critically. Sometimes someone's putting an SOP together, and there's so many things they do that are instinctive to them that they miss those steps when they're putting an SOP together. So how can someone effectively take what is maybe instinctive to them and systematize it in such a way that an SOP is clear?
Okay, that's a good question. By the way, we do a free webinar on SOPs every other month, and I'm doing mine in September. So if you
Nice.
want to go to hurleywrite.com and you can find out more information. You have to use process mapping. You just have to.
What's process mapping?
Process mapping is it helps you map the process from point A to point B. And so what a lot of organizations do is they'll say, "Oh, hey Pam, you do this, so you write the SOP." And so to your point, I'm going to, okay, well, I think I do this and then I do that and then I do the other, and either I'm going to miss steps or add steps or whatever the case may be. Or they get technical writers to write the SOPs who aren't subject matter experts, right? We worked with a large oil and gas company, and they were writing SOPs for a new plant that they were building up, and everybody was doing something different in terms of SOPs. You can't have that. Everybody has to, you need to have templates, but you have to do process mapping, and you need to do it not individually, but you need to do it as a team, because what you think you're doing and what other people think you're doing. The other thing about process mapping, it helps people understand where the process begins and ends. And it also helps people understand the overview of the entire process. So process mapping is non-negotiable. You've got to do process mapping. And if you don't, you're not going to get quality SOPs.
We were talking earlier about AI.
Yep.
And one thing that I've done, and this is specifically for mapping out a process that I do on a computer, is I've recorded a short video of me doing the process, a screenshot of my
Yeah.
screen. I've then taken the transcript, run it through Chat GPT, and come up with an SOP, which I can then edit. Is that an effective way of doing something like that, marrying AI with what you actually do in real life?
It can be. And we've used that. I think we've used Tango to do some of our smaller processes.
Yeah.
And it works fine. But for larger processes, I wouldn't trust it to do that because it was still kind of quirky and clunky a little bit to do. But we were doing it for short processes that had maybe 5 or 6 steps. But like I wouldn't use it for, turning, doing lockout tag out or something like that.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's say I know that my technical writing is junk and I'm always getting the same red lines from my subcontractors or, pushback from my clients. What are the first 3 steps I should take immediately? And you may summarize some of the things you've already said in order to get better at technical writing.
Well, you have to understand where the comments are coming from and what kind of comments they are. In other words, are they comments on content? Or are they comments on readability? If they're comments on readability, then you probably have a bigger issue. If it's comments on content, then that's something that you would have to solve internally. But again, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You have to understand. So I'm going to say this: in some organizations, there are people who just like to make comments for the sake of making comments.
Yeah, right.
It's a power thing. You have that all the time.
Yeah.
And that goes back to this idea of assessment that I was talking about earlier. Is somebody making a comment just because they're a jerk, or is this valuable? Is this valuable feedback? Right? If it's valuable feedback, then what I recommend is that you either incorporate it or you have a dialogue with the person who provided the feedback and figure out where did that feedback come from, right? So that's something that you can do. But again, you have to know who you're writing for, and you can't take a shortcut on that.
Yeah.
What we recommend to organizations is that, especially if you're in an organization where you're writing to the same kind of reader all the time,
Mm-hmm.
take 15 minutes, take 20 minutes, take 30 minutes with the team and do a deep dive. What are 5 things you know about that reader? What are 5 strategies that you can use to appeal to that reader?
Yep.
That's A. B, what are you trying to achieve? And you need to write it down. It's not something that goes on up here. You've got to write this stuff down. This is what we're trying to achieve. And it's got to be more than just we're trying to get them to accept our proposal. There has to be a why behind it. Because if there's no why behind it, then nothing's ever going to change.
So when you say that why, what is that why? How do I figure out the why?
If in other words, if I'm trying to get somebody to accept the bid for the sake of argument, we want to go beyond, well, it's business for us. Okay. Well, why does that matter?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it matters because of X. We want to because people have lots of reasons other than money for winning business. I want to keep people busy. I want to get into this company. I want to do this. So if I say, for instance, we want to win this bid so that we can become a partner with this company, that's very different from I want to win this one-time project.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because if I want to embed myself in this company or our company within their company, now I can figure out a strategy. How do we want to do that? What's important to this organization? What's important to this company? What's important to this reader? So it really does go beyond just Eric's my reader and I just want him to be happy.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit more about your business then, Pam, and how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. So it's Hurley Write Incorporated, and you can reach us hurleywrite.com, HURLAYWRITE, or call us 877-249-7483, or hit me up on LinkedIn, Pam Hurley.
Excellent.
And we've been doing this, as I said, for 30-something years. We have a whole suite of workshops. We work with reviewers. We work with writers. We have retention programs and all kinds of fun stuff. So we have a lot of experience with contractors too. So
I appreciate that. And all the links are in the show notes. And just checking out the website here, there's a ton of stuff that you can learn on how to be a better writer and a ton of resources here. So Pam, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing
thank
that
you.
with us.
It's a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Hey, this is Eric. Before you bounce away, thank you for listening to Construction Genius. Go to the show notes and you can find out where Pam's website is, hurleywrite.com. Lots of great stuff on that website, by the way, so you should check it out. And thank you for listening today. Feel free to share this episode with people who you think would benefit from listening. And also give us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. I'll catch you on the next episode.